Hi, everybody. I trust you all had a wonderful Christmas. I am still following the Moscow, Idaho murders and even did so during Christmas. Well, at least a quick look, just in case there is something new. And in a way, there was. We now know that Kaylee, Maddie, and Hoodie Guy walked from the corner bar to the food truck, and that Kaylee and Maddie ordered an Uber to take them home from there. The Uber driver heard about the murder the next day, contacted police himself, and handed his GPS data over. So thank goodness, one person we can actually rule out. According to the Uber driver, the conversation was normal. The girls spoke about the food they were going to share during the 5-minute ride. He dropped them off at the bottom of the driveway, left, and obviously his GPS data proves it. Now, I have a question for you. We had all been talking about Hoodie Guy, and the general consensus is that Hoodie Guy is Jack Showalter. Okay, so here is a photograph of John. Yes, his real name is John Jack Showalter. And so, if Hoodie Guy was Jack Showalter, then who is the guy Maddie was seen hugging at the food truck? Have a look at the photographs, and if you know, please tell me. With the Uber driver now saying he picked the two girls up, it is a little clearer as to why they ran off and Hoodie Guy walked off in the opposite direction. The Uber driver also said the girls sounded their normal selves and that everything at the house looked normal, at least as far as he could see. But of course, he could not see the side or the back of the house. So Uber driver's testimony gives us some likely information, namely, if someone was lurking and waiting, he was likely already inside or waiting and hiding at the back. It also tells us that no one was following them. But of course, many people knew where they lived, so Hoodie Guy and many others did not have to follow them to find out where they lived. However, this also tells me that if one or both of the girls were the target, then the perp was not a stranger. Then we also saw body cam footage of police responding to noise disturbance calls at the house, and in one of the videos we can also see the window screen propped up against a wall and the cinder block in the exact same position as in one of Chris McDonough's videos. So we can now also safely say that the point of entry was not the window, and thus, if nothing was picked up on security cameras either or passers-by, then the only other point of entry was the glass sliding door. So we can now also say with relative certainty that the perp entered through the sliding door. Now those sliding door locks, particularly if it is the lever type like I had in my home previously, are fairly easy to open. Just ask my children. We broke into our home once or twice the exact same way. So it may not even be the case that anybody left the door unlocked. Then, looking at footage of the girls walking from the corner bar to the food truck in particular, it is obvious that the sleeves of the black jacket Maddie was wearing was far too long for her. So, whose jacket was she wearing? Did she borrow one at the bar and gave some guy her number and address so he could collect it the next day? Or did it simply belong to someone else in the house? Did it perhaps belong to her boyfriend Jake? Did she just grab it on her way out? I don't think so. I'm sure Maddie had her own warm jacket she could have or would have taken. So whose jacket was it? Did she borrow one at the bar and gave some random guy her address so he could retrieve it at some point? Then I want to point out something else I picked up on. I honestly don't know who put this out first and who I should credit for it. But floating on social media is a picture from someone who is an astrophotographer. And the picture is of supposedly the driver of the white Hyundai Elantra. If this picture can be believed, the driver wore glasses, likely had a chin beard, and wore a backwards baseball cap with a large P as emblem. I searched the internet and the only baseball or peaked caps with a large P emblem in that type of lettering are the Puma caps. Now the Puma caps come in all colors, black, blue, and even white with blue peaks, etc., camo, blah, blah, blah. But all with the same P in the same lettering style. Now I just want to show you a zoomed in picture of Jack D or Jack DeCoeur. I can just as well say his name because it is out there everywhere. And it appears, although I can't see the front of the cap, that he is wearing a Puma cap. Now this means absolutely nothing really, as there are likely millions of Puma caps in circulation, but I thought I'll just point that out to you. I also took a few days to look into the psychological dynamics of a mass murderer and or serial killer. And it is interesting how various studies contradict one another. Many studies are adamant that most serial killers or mass murderers suffered some form of childhood trauma. Yet not even this is always true. Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, Richard Cottingham, the butcher of Times Square, and Randy Kraft, the scorecard killer, all had normal childhoods. I've also read through a paper on the typology of serial killers and mass murderers, namely the organized and disorganized killer and the mixed. I have read through portions on the studies done after brain scans were taken of such perpetrators, and although some dysfunction could be detected in some, none was visible in others. The same applies to intelligence levels, although it is generally the case that serial killers are usually of above average intelligence. Honestly, one can use averages and most likelies, just like the police and profilers do. But at the end of the day, until the Idaho killer is caught, we truly will not know what his motivation was or what caused him to do what he did. Over the last few days and since my previous video on the subject, I narrowed down my idea or vision of what or who this person may be based on what I heard in the media and what I read. I do not think this perpetrator was truly an organized killer, nor do I think he was completely disorganized, meaning that I do not think he planned this months and months in advance. There may have been an emotional build-up, a frustration, or a simmering anger over a long period. But I do not think he planned on committing these murders for years or months in advance. I think this is a mixed situation where there was indeed some forethought. I do not think it was just a spur of the moment thing either, but instead, I think the killer had for some time felt that people in the house or a person in the house was not treating him the way he deserved to be treated, and likely thought that he could or would like to kill her or them. And then something happened which pushed him to the point where the fantasy became a reality. I think there was no long-term planning, but indeed short-term planning, as in he decided to wait for them to come home. He decided to wait until the lights went out and the house became quiet, etc., etc. I still think this is a younger person, and now I'll even go so far as to narrow down the age group to somewhere between 18 and 28. Other than that, I think this person is indeed, like I said before, healthy and fit. I also think he is between 5'10" at the very least and 6'2". And the reason why I think this is because Ethan, who turned 20 less than a month before he was murdered, was 5'11", studied recreation, sport, and sport management, was a good all-rounder when it came to sport. I just cannot see anyone slighter or much shorter than him doing the damage to him which could or would cause his death. Remember, the taller you are, the longer also your reach. Then it would be my guess that this person, 18 to 28, approximately 6 foot, male, is also a spoiled, narcissistic person. Many YouTube creators see this person as a loner, an outcast, but I do not think this is true. I think this is a person who is entitled, spoiled, narcissistic, and that his anger stems from the fact that he has as yet not been able to reach the fame or level of popularity, the success or the opportunity for success which he thinks he deserves or is owed to him. I think it is very likely that he is the type of person many will describe as a wise ass or a pain in the backside. Hence, the reason why he is not very popular, not always invited, and could perhaps not get or keep the girl. Instead of being a quiet loner, I'm starting to think that this person is cunning, very deceptive, and someone who is instead striving for money or power or status. And of course, with all of that comes having that good-looking girl on your arm. For some reason, I have a feeling that the perpetrator is an only child or was raised like an only child. Maybe because his siblings are much older, or maybe even a lot younger. Or he may be the only son, but something caused him to be treated differently in his household. Guys, maybe I'm completely wrong and off track, but in my opinion, we are looking for a male, 18 to 28, 5'11" to 6'2", narcissistic, pain in the butt personality who is either an only child or treated as an only child, and possibly with older parents. I think he is or was a student at the university or had known one or two of the victims for a year or longer. And that, my dear friends, is still my opinion with a little bit of added meat. But of course, I may be completely wrong, as evil comes in many shapes and sizes. So, until we meet again on the next one, please stay safe out there. Bye.